I'm Lisa Stone, and you are listening to Season 8 of Parenting Aces.
Welcome to Season 8 of the Parenting Aces Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week we are going to be talking team tennis for our young players. And my guest is Tammy Anderson. Tammy works in Louisville, Kentucky at the Springhurst Tennis Club / Top Gun Academy. She is an amazing coach who I've known for several years now and gotten to know better in the past couple of years through our work at the WTCA. And I was just thrilled when Tammy reached out to me about coming on the podcast to talk about the recent Southern Cup. Tammy coached a 12 and under team at Southern Cup last week and just had a phenomenal experience and wanted to share that with all of you. And our conversation kind of evolved into the various team events that are available for our young players and why kids should play team tennis, why they should get involved in these team events, what they can learn from them, and how the team events can help with their overall tennis development. So I hope you enjoy my convo with Tammy. Also want to just remind you guys that we have started a Patreon page for the podcast, and the link to that is in the show notes. So if you are interested in supporting the Parenting Aces Tennis Podcast, we would love to have you on board. We have different levels of support with various rewards that come with those levels. So be sure and check us out at patreon.com/parentingaces. And last but not least, if you haven't already, please become a member of ParentingAces.com, either as a free member or as a premium member, which also comes with some added benefits. And we would love to have you join our community, take part in the various events that we're putting on, webinars, camps, and just all sorts of little extras that we offer to our members. So I think that's it for this week. My big news kind of came out already, I think, but I am making a move from Atlanta to Southern California in a couple weeks and am looking to connect with any of you who are based in Southern California. I'll be in Orange County and am really looking to do some work with the tennis community there up in Los Angeles as well. So if you're in that area and want to meet up for lunch or coffee or to hit some tennis balls, please reach out to me. You can find me through the website, through social media. My email and cell phone contact info is on parentingaces.com as well. So I look forward to hearing from you. All right, for now, just sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Tammy Anderson. Tammy Anderson, welcome to the Parenting Aces podcast. It's great to finally get you on.
Thank you so very much. Excited to be talking to you.
Well, you and I think we met while my son was still playing juniors, but we didn't really know each other. And we got to know each other a little bit better last summer at the WTCA conference in New York. And then now I just feel like you're an old friend. So
good. Same here.
Yeah. So I want you to start out by letting our audience get to know you a little bit. So if you could tell us about how you got started in tennis and what you're doing now.
Okay. Well, I started when I was about 8 years old, just playing around for fun. Obviously, that's how everybody starts. Just kept playing through middle school and high school. Playing tournaments locally where I was living in Washington State at that time. Continued to play for high school and my college team. Whitworth, it's now Whitworth University. When I played, it was NAIA. Now it's a Division II school. So huge jump for them. Graduated school, went out into the workforce for a while, continued to play tennis in the league, was coaching a little bit on the side. Parents would come to me or friends of that were on the tennis team would come to, hey, can you give my kids some advice and whatnot? So, it just started a long time ago. But I actually didn't get certified until I was older. But I continued teaching throughout my lifetime. Finally settled down. We were in Canada for a while. I'm Canadian. Came out of Canada and came into Kentucky. Worked there in Crestview Hills, and had my own academy for about 5 or 6 years. Had about 65 students, mostly recreational and recreational adults. Ran clinics, whatnot, gave private lessons. My husband took a job in Louisville. We moved to Louisville and got on at Top Gun Academy / Springhurst Tennis Club. Have been there 7 years. And since I've been there, I started out as a staff pro and then moved on to the Future Stars director and started really diving into developing some really top-notch players in the 10s and 12s, and have just really taken off with that. 4 years ago, got the chance to meet Sarah Stone. She is a WTA Gold coach, and her and Ann Grossman. Ann was, I believe, her top ranking was 29 in the world. Her and Sarah are good friends, and they got involved and came up with the idea of creating the Women's Tennis Coaching Association. And I think I was just in the right spot at the right time and got involved with them. And so the last 4 years, going really strong with them as far as traveling the world, leading the way for the female pathway journey and how to coach female athletes versus male athletes. What's the difference? What are the things that we should be looking at mentally versus physically, and continuing that outreach around the world.
Fantastic. What attracted you to working with the younger players? You said you've been doing a lot of work at the club in Louisville with the 10s and 12s. What makes coaching them unique, and what makes coaching them so attractive for you?
Well, for me, it's always been the fact that I feel like I can tease the kids. So in other words, we're talking trash to each other at that age. And they are literally eating it up because here's an adult that's talking to them on their level. And also at the same time, they're gaining that love and passion for the game of tennis. The other thing that's very dear and close to my heart is the fact that I have 3 daughters, and, that middle school period of time was not the easiest thing for them. And they struggled, but they have, become these wonderful, beautiful young women as adults. And so that passion for being a mentor for the girls, those ages of, 8 to 14, 15 is really hit home for me. And I realized early on that because of the way that our culture has developed, and both parents are working now, that a lot of the kids just aren't getting everything that they need. And so that's why this has been, laid on my heart that I needed to be there for that age group.
What makes teaching that age different? I mean, so obviously they're younger. We get that. But, from a coaching standpoint, any beginner that enters the game has to learn basic technique, movement, tactical patterns, things like that. But if that entry-level person is a young child, obviously you're teaching differently to them than you would to, a 40-year-old that's learning the game for the first time. Can you talk about the differences in teaching to the younger age versus, even teenagers or older adults?
Sure. Well, first off, let's just make sure that everybody understands that when you're teaching the younger kids, they want to learn those technical things, those tactical, the strategies. The way that it's presented is the difference. So you have to, it's like building a puzzle. You have to put one piece in at a time. The kids see just one thing, and then they start connecting the dots. So you're working definitely in steps and progressions. And the other big thing for the children is the way that society is now, where we're all socialized and digitized. Everything is a game. You have to put in perspective the way that you're going to teach. So if you are, say, teaching them how to track the ball, how are you going to, number one, how are you going to make that fun for them? And as you're explaining it, you've got to do it in pieces. So the first thing is you got to talk about anticipation. Okay. Where is that ball going to land? Where are you going to anticipate? And most kids, that's a big word for them. So then you have to talk to them and say, okay, let's take something else. What can you anticipate? And most of the time they're like, well, I'm not sure what you mean. I said, okay, well, mom's making cookies and you're waiting on mom to get those cookies done. When are they done? So, you're taking everything that you know to teach and you have to break it down into segments. Then the other critical part about this is every single child has a different learning style. They're either right brain or left brained. They're either visual, they're auditory, or they're kinetic. And then some of them are both, or they have all three. So you really have to find out what the learning style is and then adapt what you're teaching to that specific child, especially, and you might have 3 or 4 different learning styles within a big group.
So, that's a huge challenge for a coach, and couple that with shorter and shorter attention spans that we know, is a situation with kids now. It takes a special person to commit to teaching that age group for sure.
Well, I think you've got to have a lot of patience, number one. And I think you have to have some kind of level of encouragement along with the kids, because a lot of the kids struggle these days. Most kids can't track the ball anymore. Whereas before, maybe 20 years ago, they were outside throwing the ball and everything. Now they're not so much. Now it's that hand-eye coordination is just not there. So a lot of the drills that we do are helping the kids, number one, track the ball.
So developing basic athletic skills that kids used to develop on the playground.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Because the kids would come, they'd play at school on the playground, they'd have recess, and they'd come home and they'd go out and play it again. But that's not happening these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so sad to me. And, before Parenting Aces, way before Parenting Aces, I was very involved in the legislative side of getting PE back in the schools and, learned a lot about childhood obesity and inactivity and the results of inactivity and obesity in our children and the health risks and all of that. But I think one of the things that we're seeing now that everybody's just now connecting the dots, as you mentioned before, which is the fact that these kids aren't having recess, aren't having daily PE, aren't going outside and playing, is now showing up on the organized sports playing field because our kids haven't developed these basic athletic skills that used to just happen organically.
Right. Exactly. So,
yeah. So you as the coach are not just teaching tennis anymore. You're having to start with some skills that are precursors to learning tennis.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's all about the hand-eye contact. I mean, the kids will, if they're not doing well with that, then, we have to back up and we've got to get them moving. I mean, even as you are watching them, as they come out onto the court and you say, okay, everybody, let's do some warm up. Let's do some fun things. It's okay. Take a lap or two. And then as you're watching them, you're looking at the style of their run. Are they coordinated? Is it opposite leg, opposite arm as they move forward? Is their upper body forward, or are there legs in front of them, which is rare to see, but most of the time you see where they're bending over, and they're not, above their body, so you can just tell by that. And then the strangest thing is when they're throwing a ball, it's like their arm is jerky. And it's like, it kind of gets a little spastic. So you're kind of like, okay, we got to work on that, and just these kinds of things. And then at that point, until they really develop that hand-eye coordination and they can track the ball, then at that point, that's when you start tossing the balls. And that's when the low compression balls come into play. And those really, really have come full circle. I mean, I've got 8 and 9-year-olds that look like a mini Rafa Nadal and Serena Williams right now.
Because of playing with the low compression balls and having that extra time to set up for shots. And is that what you're... Yeah. Yes. And then they move, they go from the red to the orange into the green. And then, the transition period is not this huge, big, downswing. It goes down a little tiny bit, then it comes back up again because, they've had the chance to grow and their center of gravity has settled down into their stomach and they've had a chance to grow into the appropriate ball. Interesting.
So I mean, I've got a group of kids that came through me, in their 6, 7. They were like ranked in Southerns in top 10, and there was like a huge group of them. And now they're nationally ranked and playing in the 14. So, I mean, it just incredible. And they're not barely 12 years old.
Wow. So it occurs to me as I'm listening to you talk about all of this stuff, Tammy, that there's some concrete things that parents can be doing with their kids between tennis lessons, between groups and drills and all of that are really going to benefit their kids as they go through this development process. I mean, things like getting outside and tossing a ball around, as you said, or, playing tag or taking them to the playground and making a game out of an obstacle course around the different pieces of equipment on the playground, or, taking a ball out and kicking it around. Things that are easy, inexpensive, can be done in, a 15-minute block of time that would really benefit these children once they are on the tennis court and ready to start learning this sport. Right.
And I'll tell you, the kids that are out there that are playing soccer, they develop the fastest.
Interesting. Because of the footwork? What is it?
The footwork and the foot-to-eye contact. If you think about it, they have to make contact with their foot most of the time in soccer out in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing with the tennis ball and the racket.
So it's just understanding that concept of see ball, hit ball, or see ball, kick ball, right?
See ball, anticipate, judge where you need to be to make contact out in front of you.
I love that. All right. So really the reason I wanted to have you on, besides the fact that you're an awesome woman and an awesome coach, is you recently coached the 12 and under Southern Cup team. And a lot of our listeners may not know what Southern Cup is. And I would love for you to talk to us about the concept of Southern Cup, why it's in existence and what your experience has been.
Well, the Southern Cup is a tournament where the top 3 boys and 3 girls from each state come to compete against the other 8 states. So Southern is 9 states. And so all the states are coming together to compete in a team format. So all the points. So say like the boys, the format was the first day. There were 2 singles matches for each of the boys, and then 2 singles matches for each of the girls, and then 2 doubles. So all the points were added together as a team. The most you could get was 7. So let's say I had 3 boys and 3 girls on my team, and all 3 boys won, all 3 girls won. So that's 6 points, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then we played a round of doubles. So we played 3 doubles, a boys double, a girls double, and a mixed double. And in order to get 1 point for the doubles, you had to win 2 out of 3 of those doubles matches.
And when you say they played a match, what type of scoring format was used?
It was a first to 6, win by 2, 2 sets, third set tiebreak, 10 points.
So a 10-point breaker. Okay. And regular scoring, no ad scoring?
It was no ad scoring.
It was no ad scoring. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so day 1, everybody played a singles match. Everybody, not everybody played doubles. You played 1 boys, 1 girls, and 1 mixed. And so the mixed, did that have to be the player that didn't play the other, either girls or boys? No. So everybody got to play a doubles?
So the first day, it was a very, very long day. The first day, so in the morning, we started out, we had 3 doubles matches. Then the kids went in, each child played a singles match. And that was that was for 1 team against another team. We were team Coco Gauff. Yeah. We were the newcomer.
I love it.
I think we played against Team Nadal.
Okay. Oh, so, I'd have trouble deciding who to root for in that situation. Man. 2 of my faves.
You got to go with the newbie.
Yeah.
And we tied it up 3-all. And but in the doubles, we lost. So our team score was 3-4.
Got it. And then you move on the next day and play another team? Is that how it works? Or was it like a compass?
No, that was the morning. And then in the afternoon, we played team, Federer.
Okay.
And the same thing. We lost 3-4. And then that was a very long day for everybody. I think I put like 25,000 steps on my Fitbit.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wasn't even playing. And then the next day on Saturday, everybody just played 2 singles matches. And then we had our team banquet that night. And then Sunday morning, we only played 2 doubles. And then we had the team awards. So on Saturday, we tied 3-all. And then on Sunday, we lost by 1 in each of the doubles. So unfortunately, we had everything was so close that we lost. So, but we got the Team Spirit Award.
I love it. So there's a team from each of the 9 states. So in each age group, there's Southern Cup for 12s. Aren't there Southern Cups for other age groups
Yes.
as well?
14, 16s, and 18s, and they're actually starting today for the 14, 16, and 18s. And the difference between the 12s and the other three is that in the 12s, those kids are still kind of being nurturing and coached. So they allowed for us to be on court as they were playing. Now, there were a couple of coaches that did that. I did it every once in a while if I felt like that player needed a little extra encouragement. But otherwise, I tried to stay back behind the fence so I can, and I'd go out on the changeover and coach if I felt they needed it. But, part of tennis is conflict resolution. And if we're not letting our kids try and figure it out and think through it, it's never going to get developed.
It's so interesting because, we've seen on-court coaching at various levels, for the older players. For example, in college, they can have on-court coaching, and certain professional events, they can have on-court coaching. U.S. Open Juniors just completed, they could have on-court coaching, boys and girls. And, in several WTA events, the women can have on-court coaching. To me, it's always been backwards. Like, who needs the on-court coaching? It's the kids that are just starting out, the developing players. They're the ones that may need a reminder now and then about what they're supposed to be doing out there, not just in terms of hitting the ball, but also in terms of behavior, in terms of making good line calls, being a good sport, all those things. And to me, it was just always so backwards. Like, why would you allow coaching at the highest level of the game, but leave our youngest players out there to flail around on their own? It made no sense. So I love that you guys were there and could coach if it was needed.
Right. And if you really think about it again, it's starting from when they're small and working towards this huge thing. So they've kind of like got this huge giant bubble around them. And that bubble is being filled with everything that they have learned. And as they're younger, their mindset, the way that they think, is trying to encompass everything inside that bubble. And a lot of times things get missed. So, and as they progressively get older and the mind matures and the thinking changes, those things just start coming out and they just become natural for them. But when they're younger, everybody's got to remember their brains are still being built. They're still growing. Every time you learn something new, you get a little tiny dent in your brain.
Right.
So, I mean, for them, and just, at that age, hormones haven't always set in. And that's a huge, huge part of all of this for those kids, for the 12 and unders. Even the 14s still struggle with this if you get a late bloomer.
Right. So let's get back to the format of Southern Cup and kind of the reason behind it, because I know it's been around for a while, but there's being a lot written about how many players we're losing by age 13 in the sport, and how the thought process is if we create more team events, maybe we'll be able to hang on to these players and keep them involved in the game of tennis. And Southern Cup is a great example of that. It's a team event. It's both genders playing together as a team. It sort of mirrors club tennis at the college level, where you have both genders on the team. And I mean, what are your thoughts about, what you're seeing in terms of the atmosphere around Southern Cup? What are you hearing from the players, the parents, the other coaches, et cetera?
Well, number one, I think the team event is the best format for everyone concerned. And there's several reasons for this. First and foremost is development. So on my team, my 3 boys and my 3 girls, one was way ahead in his growth spurt. 2 in the boys hadn't even hit their growth spurts yet. In the girls, 2 had hit their growth spurts and 1 hadn't. So it really equals out to a level playing field, number 1. Number 2, if somebody all of a sudden tanks, because they're playing the team sport, it might not necessarily affect the outcome. And number 3, I had a situation on my team where somebody was not doing well and got really upset afterwards. And you know what happened is the team came over and just encouraged this person and just made them feel so much better, lifted them up out of their, being down. And, even though we finished last place, it was a team effort. It wasn't just one person.
And how did you instill that attitude, that mindset into these 6 kids? Because if they're the best kids in your state. So these are kids who are used to playing individual tournaments and competing as an individual. How do you get them to shift to that team mindset?
Well, first off, let's go back a wee bit. So, and this I didn't get a chance to say earlier, but with the 12, because the 12 still need that encouragement and that coaching because their brains aren't fully developed yet, what they do with the 12s is we do a waterfall. So as far as the teams are concerned. So even though I was representing Kentucky and I had 3 boys and 3 girls from Kentucky, I didn't have any Kentucky kids on my team. I had kids from the other states. So these were kids, number 1, I didn't know other than who they were as far as their rankings. Some of them I knew from previous tournaments that I had met, but I think there were, I knew 2 of them and the other 4 I did not. So in other words, so instilling that, first you got to develop a relationship. You just can't go up to somebody and say, hey, you need to do this. They don't know you. They haven't talked with you. You've got to develop that with them. So there's got to be a relationship established. So Thursday night, when everybody checked in, I specifically went up and found each of my players. And I talked to them about their game. And I talked to them about who I was, what my expectations were. I made very clear to everybody. I said, look, here are my expectations. I don't expect us to win, but I expect you to bring every single tool in your bag, your tricks. You would just bring it out on that tennis court. And I expect you to give me your best. And when you are down on yourself, you need to let me know if I'm not sensing it. And so that I can talk you through it. I said, I'm here to support you. I'm here to coach you. I'm here to tell you maybe something that you're missing. Are you picking up the patterns that they're doing? Are you disrupting their rhythm? What are they doing to try to do that to you? What are you doing in rebuttal to that? So, I made it very clear to them. I said, look, I'm a positive person. I like to keep it up. I like to keep a strong mindset. And I talked a lot to them about their mindset. What are some of the things they could say to them during the coaching sessions? I wouldn't just walk up to them and say, hey, this is what you need to do. I'd walk them and say, okay, tell me what's going on right now. What are you sensing? What are they doing? How can you change it? What can you do differently? So I got them thinking through the process and encouraging them. Mm-hmm. That's what I did.
Let me back up a second. You mentioned that the teams were waterfalled in the 12s. Can you explain what that means?
Well, what they did was all the 12s got put into a hat.
Everybody from every state.
Everybody from every state.
Mm-hmm.
So all the boys were put in a hat. All the girls were put in a hat. So they picked out boys, and they put 3 boys on my team. They were from each So I think, let's see, I had one from Arkansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Mississippi. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
but it wasn't done by ranking or UTR or anything like that. It was just a random.
No, not UTR. But I do it in how exactly how they accomplished it. I couldn't tell you, but I do know that what they tried to do was each of the. Oh, so let's go with the girls. So I had one girl that was number 2 in Southern, and she pulled out at the last minute and decided to play the 14. So the number 2 girl on my team, who was ranked about 30th in Southern, got moved up to the 1 spot. Then the number 3 girl, who was ranked about 35, got moved up to the 2nd spot. And then I got a 3rd girl who was, I think, ranked about 52nd in Southern. So the kids, I would have the boys position 1, 2, and 3, and the girls position 1, 2, and 3.
But it was based on their Southern ranking?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't that they selected teams that had comparable UTRs or comparable rankings. It was just whoever you drew for your team got positioned according to their Southern ranking.
Well, okay. So let's back up a little bit. So,
sorry, this is just I'm confused.
This is complicated.
Yeah.
This is complicated. So what they did was when we had the initial call, say like with Kentucky, USTA Kentucky, and me got on the call. I was doing the 12. So, and then the competition board, junior competition board was on there. So we took the 3 top ranked boys, okay, and the 3 top ranked girls.
In Kentucky.
Okay. Yep. We went over their player records. We went over their, did they have good behavior? Did they have good sportsmanship? That kind of thing. And then the letter was sent out to them, inviting them to the Southern Cup. Okay.
Okay.
All three boys accepted. All 3 girls accepted. Okay. So that's how it was handled in each state. Okay.
Got it.
Now, if somebody couldn't make it, then the invite would go to the next person ranked.
Got it.
Okay. So that's why, like on my team, my highest boy was 20, then 21, and then 46.
In Southern.
In Southerns.
Got it.
That makes sense? Does that help explain?
Yeah. But then, so you got your 3 boys and 3 girls from Kentucky, came to Southern Cup, but they weren't on the same team. Everybody's 6 kids, well, their 3 girls, their 3 boys were thrown into a hat and drawn onto different teams, not necessarily representing their own state.
Right. And I'm sure at some point after the draws were done, they looked at them to see if it needed to be adjusted. Because I felt like everybody was each team was fairly well matched against other teams.
Got it. So you had competitive matches.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, every single match that I saw, there was one, but every single match that I saw was it was head to head and tiebreakers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, now I have a better picture of how it all got organized. So then what did you hear from the kids out there? Because again, these are kids obviously that are playing individual tournaments to get these high sectional rankings. They have a lot of experience playing by themselves, for themselves, without coaching on court. What kind of feedback did you hear?
Well, I had a great group of kids. I mean, I really I mean, when I left, they were all hugging on me. I mean, I was loving it. The kids, when you go out on the court and the kid is suffering because they're not doing well, you're not going to push yourself on them either. You're going to try and, like I had one where I had that issue that he was trying to work through what was going on. And, I realized, okay, I've just got to be there to support him at this point. And then the next changeover, I was able to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's each child is different, and you have to respect each child.
Well,
and what they want to hear.
We're talking about 10, 11, 12-year-olds as well.
Yeah, I had a 10-year-old. And then I think they were 6th and 7th graders.
Okay. And what did they say? What did they say about playing as part of a team? Because I suspect for some of these kids, it might have been their first time playing on a team.
Oh, it was. But you have to remember, some of them have played JTT too when they were younger.
Well, that's what I was going to say, unless they came through JTT. But
yeah, and several of them on my team did, because I recognized them from sectional.
Mm-hmm. JTT, for those of you not familiar, junior team tennis, and it is a USTA program, a team program. So, I mean, did they like being part of a team? Was it a hard adjustment for them to play for other people as opposed to just for themselves, or did they just kind of flow right into it?
I felt like everybody on my team kind of flowed right into it. I do know some of the coaches had a few difficult kids, not per se bad behavior or anything, but just not willing necessarily to listen to some coaching. But, it is what it is, and you got to respect that. I mean, if they know their mind, that's up to them, actually. I mean, they're making those decisions on the court, and they have been doing that for a while.
Right. And what about parents? I mean, are the parents there, or are these kids strictly there with their team coach?
Oh, yeah. The parents are there. There were a couple of parents that were a little intense. Not on my
Really? Tennis parents being intense? Come on now.
I had the best players and the best parents. Parents at this level, parents know their children, know what they need. We're recognizing it. If I was coaching another player and they knew that their child needed something, they were right there, and Tammy, come and, help.
Yeah.
Come and help. She needs to do this, and, I'd go out to the court, when it was time on the changeover, and I said, look, mom or dad's saying this. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, highly involved, really, for most of the part, this was an extraordinary event. I mean, I was in my element. The kids were fantastic. It was just an incredible event.
When you say the parents on your team were great, what constitutes a great parent? In your mind, as a coach, what are you looking for?
Yeah, as a coach, I'm looking for a parent who's going to be highly involved, highly encouraging, not overbearing, somebody who's not hanging on the fence, somebody who's giving their child time to digest what just happened, whether good or bad, and then waiting on their child to come forth and talk about it. I'm looking for a parent that is willing to allow me to do my job, and, work with me. Mm-hmm. So somebody quoted this, I don't know how long ago, but it takes a village to raise a champion. And that's the parent, that's the coach, that's the physio, that's the mental coach. It really does. And everybody has to be willing to work together and compromise.
Right. Right. So if kids want to get involved in Southern Cup and I'm not even sure, is there something comparable in other sections? Do you know?
Well, there's always going to be tournaments.
But the team events.
Oh yeah, there are team, like zonals and stuff like that. And that's a really long, intense team event. But there will be more team events coming. That's the way of the movement. This is going to allow that disparity between the growth spurt. Like I've got a 10-year-old who's as tall as me right now.
Wow.
Yeah. And, both parents were 6 foot. And there was one young lady on another team this last weekend that just dominated everybody. And she was taller than me, had muscle development, was just barely 11, real intense on the court, and, beautiful player, but it is what it is. And, the team challenges and the team events, this is going to allow for an equal playing field, a level playing field.
Mm-hmm. So if a player is interested in participating in one of these team events where they have to be selected, is there anything the player can do to get on the radar of the selection committee, or is it simply based on ranking?
Well, it depends on what, the tournament director who comes up with the event, or, whether it's USTA Kentucky or one of the other events, it just depends. The parent needs to be proactive and looking at tournaments within the state and surrounding states. And now, if you've got a player that's playing the Southern level tournaments, then they've got to be looking at Southern level tournaments. And this takes a lot of effort. Now, probably one of the easier ways to do it, instead of getting onto the app and looking at it, would be to contact your rep, your TSR from your state. That's your tennis service rep from your state. So, and find out, hey, what events are coming up? What's on the radar? What can I do? And if there's JTT is a perfect example of everybody being included. We've got some really great JTT teams.
Right. And then there are also some entry level, some kids that are just learning the game.
There's entry level too. And so,
and everything in between.
And everything in between,
yeah.
and then, there's the advanced group and then the novice intermediate group. So, it just really depends. And then there's the fall scholastic. If I know we have team tennis in the fall for our juniors. I don't know if every state has that, but I know that we do. And that's another team event. And then we have the JTT, which usually starts in May and goes through August.
Right. And with JTT, there is a pathway with JTT where you progress from your local team, you progress to, I don't know what all the levels are, but eventually to national, where you can win a national championship.
That's right. So the 10s don't advance. In the 10s, they have an advanced group and an intermediate group. But they go to sectionals because, I've got 1 year I had the 10s, the 12s for like 3 years, state champions. And then the 14s were, we went to sectionals. We got the wild card. We were the runner up that year. But, so the 10s have got 2 levels. The 12s have got 2 levels. Then everybody else has got intermediate and advanced. But on the 12s, here's the kicker. On the 12s, the advanced team is yellow ball, regulation ball. The intermediate group is green dot.
Interesting. For 12s.
Yeah, it's really great, because then there are kids that are could be 9 years old who have been playing green dot ball but they're not ready for the yellow ball, so they play the 12 and under green dot intermediate on the JTT.
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of options for these kids outside the individual tournament structure. And I think that's the message that I want people to, walk away with after listening to this podcast is, especially for the younger kids, it's not just about playing individual tournaments. There are so many other ways for them to be involved in the sport and compete in the sport in a manner that's maybe a little less intimidating and maybe a little more fun for them than just being out there on their own week in and week out.
Right.
Yeah. And so contacting your TSR is a great suggestion. Also, I always encourage parents to make sure to introduce themselves to the head of their junior comp in their section and, make sure they establish a relationship with the head of junior comp. And that person can be very, very helpful as your child is going through their tennis journey and, moving from level to level and hoping to get invited to camps and to team events like Southern Cup and zonals and other things like that. And, it does, as you said, Tammy, the parents have to be proactive. They have to learn how the sport works and make sure that they're opening the door for their child to have the opportunities that they're earning.
Right. Exactly. And another thing that I've always suggested to my parents and to my students is that go and watch a tournament. See what it's all about.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Tournament. It doesn't matter what, level it is. Go and watch. Go and watch a college tournament. We're right next to the Western Southern. Every year I take up a group of kids every year. Let's go watch some tennis. Get them watching it on the TV. Watch any of the Grand Slams or anything that's on the tennis channel. Just
even
watch
going
it.
to high school matches. There's some really fun tennis happening at the high school level.
Yeah. And there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be more team challenges, team events. I host a lot of things for the kids, the 12 and under. We do a lot of tournaments at our club and then USTA, UTR. And I host a lot of play day events. Halloween's coming up, so I'll have, a fun event where the kids are playing. We'll do a lot of fun drills and games. Then we'll turn the lights off on the court and play Ghost in the Dark or something silly like that, And that just sticks in I've got kids who are 16 coming up to me, hey, are you still going to do the Halloween event? So.
Yeah, it has an impact. And for sure, especially with our younger players, finding a coach who understands how to engage with them on their level, as you said, Tammy, is so key to keeping them interested and involved and passionate about tennis. Right.
And especially for the girls. Especially for the girls, because we've got, it's 90% of girls are quitting tennis by the time they're 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a sad statistic. That is a really sad statistic. So
and then we don't have anybody playing college tennis, and then we don't have anybody going into developing into female coaches.
Right. Yeah, it's a cycle for sure. And learning how to get them interested and keep them interested is a huge challenge, and one which you, Tammy Anderson, have accomplished with, the utmost proficiency and excellence. And, those kids are really lucky to get to work with you. I want to just let my listeners know that I will have links to these various events in the show notes on ParentingAces.com. So if you want to take a look at the draws and, the tournament pages, those links will be in the show notes. And Tammy, if if people want to reach out to you, if they have questions about Southern Cup or getting involved in their sectional team events, is there a good way for them to reach you?
Yeah, I mean, they can email me, they can text me, they can call the club. I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay, great. And we'll have all those links in the show notes as well. Is there anything else you want to leave our audience with today?
Just parents, this is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a village to build that champion, and it's definitely 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and you got to develop some patience.
That is an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah, patience is key. Well, Tammy Anderson, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And to my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.
I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces podcast. For tennis parents, by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, I hope you'll share the podcast with your tennis community. For all the information you need to navigate the junior and college tennis journey, be sure to check out ParentingAces.com.